Speaking order. Yeah.
Welcome and good morning. We're going to get started. I'm Nicole Sherrard-Freeman, President and CEO of Detroit Employment Solutions Corp., also referred to as DESC, and it is my honor to welcome you to the official kickoff for Grow Detroit's Young Talent 2017. As lead implementation partner for GDYT, and on behalf of our partners, Sierra Metro and City Connect, we first want to start by thanking DTE for hosting this fantastic event in this beautiful space this morning. Thank you for that. As importantly, we want to thank the Mayor's Office, the Mayor's Workforce Development Board, our employer sponsors, our affiliates, a whole host of community-based organizations and other partners, and our philanthropic investors. The work that we do, the life-changing work that we do on behalf of youth in Detroit would not be possible without your engagement and support. I'm delighted to kick off this morning's program by introducing you to Tanya Allen, who is President and CEO of Skillman Foundation. Tanya is not only our esteemed colleague and partner in the work, and one of our key supporters for Grow Detroit's Young Talent, but she is also a very important strategic contributor to the youth strategy in Detroit. It is my pleasure to introduce Tanya.
Thank you, Nicole. Thank you so much. I want to greet all of you this morning and thank you for coming and thank you for your commitment and investment in our young people. Before I get started, I have to thank our mayor. Can we just give Mayor Mike Duggan a hand? We would not be here in the way that we are. We would not show up in the way that we do as a city if it wasn't for his leadership, and I am enormously grateful to him. I want to just tell you a couple quick statistics and offer a challenge to you all. In cities like Atlanta and Washington, D.C., that number is 10%. So we're trending 3 times in the wrong way as other major cities. And my challenge to you all is that we can, when we put a issue before us, when we set our minds to it, we can accomplish anything in this community. We've come back, everybody talked about the New England Patriots as the greatest comeback story. Well, I would say that Detroit is the greatest comeback story. And I think that if we choose to move that number from 33% to 1% or to 0%, that we can do it with the leadership of our corporate community that you'll hear from later, from our nonprofit community, our philanthropic community, and the leadership of our public sector that is led by Mayor Mike Duggan. The last thing I would just say about that is that we often talk about how talent is distributed equally, but opportunity isn't. And this is really about making sure that every young person has the opportunity to work, to find their full potential. And you're gonna meet a young woman in just a moment, and I have the pleasure of introducing Dianna Gardner, who is a proof point in this concept. So Dianna has been in the Grow Detroit's Young Talent program for 2 years. She's a sophomore at Cass Tech, and she will be enrolling in the program in this coming year. And I asked Dianna all kinds of questions about what she learned from work. And one of the things she said to me that I thought was really interesting is she said, I first started doing this and I first started taking this job is because I wanted to help my mother, not because she needed help, because I think she deserved help, because she's such a good mother to me. And then my mother told me, you don't have to do it for me. And she said, I started working for myself, and it's the greatest feeling I've ever had. Now, I don't know about you, but I have children, and if I can get my kids to work for themselves, I'm like, this is success in our community. And so I want to just take a moment to introduce you to Dianna, because this young, amazing woman is not just a contributor in our comeback in this city, she is an exemplar of it, because it is she who will carry the burden for all of us in the future. So I'd like to introduce you to Detroit's future leader, Dianna Gardner.
Good morning. Thank you for coming, and thank you, DTE, for hosting this event. I am Dianna Gardner, a 16-year-old sophomore at Cass Technical High School. I have been a part of Grow Detroit's Young Talent for 2 years now, and I have had the best experience. My first year in this program, I worked at Detroit School of Arts for radio and communications, where I did most of my work in studio. My second year, I worked for Belle Isle Golf Range, where I did some of my work on the fields, maintaining the greens and grounds, and doing lots of customer service. I would like to thank the Youth Connection for helping me with these wonderful work sites and training me to be a great role model, an outstanding student, and a successful leader. As a program participant, I was taught how to write a cover letter, a resume, and how to manage my money. Being involved has been a great experience. My favorite part of the program was giving back to Flint and helping out my community. Thanks to the Youth Connection and Grow Detroit Young Talent, I have been able to work in some amazing places, see new things, and learn from new experiences. I'm looking forward to another year. Thank you very much. I would like to invite Suzanne Shank of Seabird Cisneros Shank & Co. to talk about Grow Detroit's Young Talent.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I traveled to some of our nation's largest cities, and a few years ago, I was involved in forming internships or supporting internships in other major cities, New York, Chicago, and St. Louis. And so I got together with a number of other business leaders in 2000, and we founded an internship program for Detroit's high school students. It was extremely successful, all volunteer staff, and we conducted that program for several years. As we began to transition the program, we decided we wanted to contribute the rest of our funds to an organization that was aligned with our mission, introducing youth to high-growth, high-demand career pathways. And that organization for us was Grow Detroit's Young Talent. And what's so exciting about the organization is the sheer scale of the number of youth that are impacted in our city is amazing to me. I'm not aware of any other city, Mayor Duggan, that is doing this much in terms of exposing the numbers of youth. And so that's going to be transformative not only to each youth that participates, but to the city of Detroit as a whole. So I applaud you, Mayor Duggan. I applaud all the wonderful people in the room that are contributing. We brought a check today in support of the program, and I look forward to becoming more engaged going forward. Thank you so much. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Shank. Before I invite our hosts to speak, I would like to thank our GDYT community champions for this year. They are Mayor Mike Duggan, Tanya Allen from the Skillman Foundation, Andrew Rush from Detroit Manufacturing System, Hiram Jackson from Real Times Media, Frank Venegas from Ideal Group, and Dr. Herman Gray from United Way for Southeastern Michigan. Thank you for your support this year. Now I would like to introduce our host today, Gary Anderson from Dte Energy.
Well, thank you very much. That was great. And good morning, everybody. And on behalf of Dte Energy, we are really glad and proud to be hosting this event. It's a great event. So look, we have a lot to be optimistic about in Detroit right now. There's a lot going right. I look every day out my window at what the Illich family is doing with the new Little Caesars Arena. Capitol Park and Campus Martius are teaming with people. Public Lighting Authority has finished its job of lighting the neighborhoods in the cities. The M1 Rail project will go operational this year. Dan Gilbert and Quicken, we're going to be in an event together as they bring Microsoft in, and they seem to announce another amazing project about every other week. So downtown and midtown are rolling, and I think they'll keep rolling. And that raises the question, where should our focus and priorities be now? And I think the answer to that question is the focus needs to be exactly where it is this morning, We, simply put, need to bring our focus to rebuilding a healthy middle class in the city of Detroit. And I think we should see our success in doing that as the ultimate measure of our success in rebuilding this city. Now, our mayor, with the support of council, has done just a great job and has shown great leadership in putting programs like the one that we're talking about today in motion, Grow Detroit's Young Talent. And that said, the government can't deliver on the promise of these programs alone. And that's why we're hosting this kickoff event here at the headquarters of a company, because ultimately the economic engine resides in the private sector. That's where the jobs for our young people will ultimately be. And we need to tie that engine in the private sector to the task of creating broad-based employment again in our city. Now, some of the toughest employment statistics in our city are for our young people. You hear a lot of statistics, but it's estimated that some 40 to 50% of our young people in their 20s aren't connected to the job market. An important reason why so many of those are struggling is that they haven't had a meaningful opportunity in their teens to prepare them for full-time employment in their 20s, an opportunity that could give them a mental map of what the workplace is about so that when they enter their 20s and look for full-time employment, they're well prepared. This whole idea was crystallized for me when I had the opportunity to listen to one of the summer students that we sponsored a few years back. His name was Dte Owens. When I asked him what the most important thing that he had learned in his summer experience was, he said, you know, it just opened my eyes to so many opportunities for work that I didn't even know existed. In his own words, he said, I didn't know all those things were actual jobs. I didn't know you could get paid for doing those things. Well, you can take for granted that our young people understand the landscape out there, but unless they're exposed to it, why would they? And so one of the important things we do here is to help create that map for our young people. And so I think statements like Zante's drive home the reason that we at DTE continue to be such strong supporters of the mayors and the city's Grow Detroit Young Talent program. Since 2010, our foundation has contributed $4 million to create 2,000 summer jobs for Detroiters. But I have to tell you, we are not alone as a large company in our enthusiasm for this program. I have been in direct discussion with a wide array of very senior industry leaders, and I know that they are enthusiastic about trying to step behind this program and increase the number of summer jobs, and specifically do that increasingly within our companies where those jobs will reside ultimately in the end. And by employing students in jobs within our companies and allowing them to see firsthand and get real-world experience firsthand with jobs that are like those they might hold down the road. And then by combining those jobs with wraparound experiences like soft skills training, mentoring, some of the things that were mentioned earlier, I think will enable many more of our kids in their teens to make a successful transition to full-time jobs in their 20s. So look, we're committed to expanding our participation in this effort. So in our service territory right now, we, through this program, fund 600 jobs, and then we'll this summer employ an additional 400 co-ops and interns directly here at the company. So about 1,000 total, with a very healthy percentage of those coming directly from the city of Detroit. And thank you. We also had a program this past year to take 50 of those students and provide them with some pretty intensive wraparound services. And I've asked our people to double that number to 100 this year, but I think longer term we need to continue to expand that effort. So look, I'll close by offering this thought to my fellow business leaders. If you're already participating in this program, that's great, but let's work together to both improve the quality of the program with the city and to expand it over time, to make it even larger than it is. And if you are a business that's not involved, I would ask you to think seriously about being involved, because this is a great program, and it's one of the most practical ways that we in the private sector can give a push to the next thing that really needs to be pushed in order for Detroit to make its comeback. And with that, I will wrap up and just thank you again for being here this morning. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson. Before I bring up our final speaker, I would like to inform everyone that as of this morning, the GDYT.org portal has been opened, and Detroit students are signing up for a job this summer. For our final speaker, I would like to bring up our standing mayor, Mike Duggan.
All right. Let's start by giving a big hand to our MC, Dianna. Didn't she do a great job? To Suzanne Shank with her generous donation, and Jerry Anderson for hosting, but more than that, he has been the leader in recruiting other companies to be employers. This has been an important issue to me personally. The first year we were in, everything was about the bankruptcy and emergency manager, just trying to get through it. And once we got out of bankruptcy in late 2014, we sat down and said, what's the one thing that we can do to make our priority this year? And it seemed like every time budgets got cut in the city, the first thing that got cut were our young people. And we said, if the city's going to come back, we need to make sure that the young talent in this city is a part of it. And we looked at the summer jobs program. How many people here had a summer job when they were in school? Right? Big part of your life, wasn't it? Okay, we all remember it. My first summer job, I was on a garbage truck in the back of the city of Southfield. I remember it like it was yesterday. I learned what it meant to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning when you were tired and sore and show up. And of course, you didn't have the big arms that brought up the trash cans. Then I was the guy in the back who jumped up and down off the truck and emptied the cans. And it let me know that there really wasn't much to complain about when I was in school, when I knew what my alternatives were. But it taught you a lot about how do I go to work? How do I dress at work? What's a paycheck look like? How do I open up a bank account? So many things that sets you up for life. And so I looked at what was happening in the summer jobs program in the city of Detroit, and you had the Skillman Foundation, the Kellogg Foundation, who were doing some things. You had DTE, you had General Motors, you had DMC kind of doing some things, but it was not coordinated, and maybe 2,000 kids were being hired across the city. I said, what would happen if we pulled everybody together in a single program? And they said, well, you could probably employ 5,000 people. So we set out as a goal in 2015 to employ 5,000 young people. And we said, that should be a really interesting thing. We hired 5,000 young people, but more than 8,000 applied for the jobs. What it took to get people into a single paycheck, a single enrollment process, a single computer system, and to get everybody in town to buy into it was remarkable. So last year we said, okay, we're going to take 8,000 people. By now, we've got the GDYT.org website. Everybody in this city knows. You can go to that site as a company or as a student. And so last year we said, okay, we're going to roll this out, but we did it at a number of churches on a Saturday morning in February. And we opened at 9 o'clock in the morning because nobody really used the website before. We said, is anybody going to show up? I went over to the church on East Jefferson at 9 o'clock in the morning. I got there about 8:45. The kids were lined up in the freezing cold as far back as you could see to get a summer job that was going to start in July. And they were there with their parents and their grandparents and their mentors and their neighbors. It was one of the most powerful things I've ever seen. We opened the doors, and we had tables full of people who had their laptops in front of them to enroll the kids. Well, they were totally overwhelmed by the number of young people who came in. But our team was so smart, they said, okay, everybody with a smartphone, go in this room. So they filled up a big room with young people and their parents, and they said, okay, you can enroll on your own smartphone. And they started to tell them how. And all across the room, the kids took the phones away from their parents and said, here, I'll do this. And we watched a whole room full of young people enroll in the program. And we realized this year, We don't need to bring everybody to one site. The system's established. It's GDYT.org. If you want a job this summer, you can go and enroll now. Companies, we need your help. If we're going to get 8,000 young people working, it means everybody in this town has to pitch in hundreds of companies. Did it last summer. I will continue to do lots of meetings with business owners. But basically, it costs you just a couple of $1,000s for the summer, and if you can't afford to do it yourself, we'll pay half. But we want you in, even if you can take one young person. But the number of people I've run into all year long who told me about the great experience they had with a young person, and a number who said, the person who worked for me, I graduated from high school, they were so good I hired them and they're still working for me. This is what the program is all about. And so this city is coming back very fast. And here's a day for everybody in here who's got a business to say, I can help one young person this summer. So please, go to GDYT.org, sign on, take a young person for the summer, and let's make this our best year ever. Thank you to everybody who has helped us in this program.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you all so much for coming. Please sign up and hire me and my friends this summer.
Great job.